From your perspectives, what does it mean when we talk about the equal treatment of EPF?
There is an option that has been given to provident fund holders to either accept the restructure or accept a higher tax. And if you look at the other counterparts who hold bonds, like the banks, their effective tax rate is already 50%. It wasn't equal to start with in terms of the way income from bonds was treated. And so when you look at it that way and look at what has been proposed, given the circumstances, look, it's never ideal for anyone to take any negative impact from restructure. But we have to face reality that Sri Lanka has gone through its current crisis. I am a EPF holder myself, so I'm not necessarily happy about the fact that this slight reduction in income had to happen. But I think it was the most pragmatic solution, and I think the way in which it has been proposed is reasonable.
Going forward, how important is it as a country, as an economy, to fulfill our commitments and ensure that we fulfill these requirements when we talk about a rating perspective for international markets?
We saw rating agencies very proactively downgrading us long before people in Sri Lanka realize we are heading for disaster, because they can foresee very clearly the way the economy is managed, that we are going to hit the wall. Hopefully, if we do the right restructuring, structural changes, we will see the rating upgrades happening. As we go along, first of all, we have to agree with the international creditors and start repaying our debt at some point in the future, maybe next year. As we start, we will have our rating upgrades happening. And that will be a very positive message for the international community to start looking at Sri Lanka. And also, we should see some economic growth happening. We have negative growth. So if we really do well, we could go towards 5%. That's exactly what we should be aiming at. Plus, we have to encourage a lot of companies to export. So these two things are very important to get the exports going. That's why trade agreements matter. And the country's economy starts growing. Everybody will benefit.
How is this taken among the private sector?
Well, private sector wants the governments to be out of business. Now, that process is ongoing. We are talking about establishing, similar to Singapore, Tamasak, holding company structure, so that all the, at least the 52 strategic government-owned undertakings will come into the holding company. The most important thing when it comes to SOE reforms is preventing political interference. Only management issues. Unfortunately, that has created a bloated public sector, as well as there are public sector institutions that have been continuously making losses, as Sri Lankan Airlines, and now with IMF pressure, they're looking at selling Sri Lankan Airlines or some kind of a joint venture. Even if the SOE is making profits, still there is a lot of political interference. So that's why it makes a lot of sense to what has been already privatized, like SLT, to be completely privatized through the stock exchange, so that it is very transparent and well run with the proper governance principles, which is internationally recognized. Singapore, Malaysia, all have done through this holding company structure, which is the way to go.
In my view, SOE reform on its own is not sufficient. There are two other commitments that need to be made. Number one is, if we move a state-owned enterprise, which is a monopoly today, and give it to the private sector and keep it as a monopoly, that's not going to benefit anybody. We are creating the same problem again, except now someone in the private sector is making huge arbitrage profit. So one commitment when privatizing or bringing a better structure to SOEs, the other commitment that needs to be made is monopolies need to be broken. Only if monopolies are broken can everything become more efficient. And as for us as Sri Lankan consumers, Sri Lankan citizens, we can enjoy the best of everything if monopolies are broken. And the other is pricing reform. No point bringing in a lot of private sector investors into key areas and then telling them you can't sell something beyond a certain price. Then nobody will want to sell, because business is there to make profit. You have to allow market prices to prevail.